Welcome to hour 2 of the Joy Reid Show. As I mentioned at the top of the show, our unqualified TV host turned Defense Secretary Whiskey Pete Hegseth, in whose hallucination his department is now called the Department of War, a change that, like the fictitious Gulf of America, only Congress can actually perform, meaning it's a Department of Defense. He commanded every single military general and admiral to leave their posts around the world and get themselves to Quantico, Virginia, stat, all under one roof. You know, should our enemies choose to decapitate our entire government, including the commander-in-chief. They're all in one room, so convenient for them, so that he and Donald Trump could hold what really did amount to a right-wing TED Talk. So I did watch the entire insane thing yesterday so that you don't have to. You're welcome. And my chief takeaway is that Donald Trump is clearly delusional. The people around him are clearly feeding him a fantasy world, like probably showing him fake AI videos that are causing him to believe that cities like Portland and Washington, D.C. are war-torn hellholes that only he can save from the brown abyss. And he clearly believes that. Just like he's bought himself into believing that he's been president for like 10 years straight, including during the years when Joe Biden was living in the White House.
That's the problem when you look at too much AI, you start believing that stuff.
I think he believes it.
So he probably believed, did I do that yesterday? Wow.
I think he thinks he's been president for 10 years. Yeah. And I promise you, I'm not making this up. I want you guys to listen to this. He essentially has eliminated from his consciousness. He can't handle the fact that he lost the 2020 election. So he's just erased it from his consciousness, such that he seems to really believe that he's been president literally since 2017. I promise you, I'm not making this up. I want to play for you the piece of that long thing yesterday when he talks about being the 45th, 46th, and 47th president.
We'd like to name it the F-47. I said, all right, let me think about it. Then after thinking for about 2 seconds, I said, okay. You know, that means 47, I'm 47. So I'm 45, 46, and 47, you know, if you think about it. I just don't want the credit for 46. I don't want to have their open borders and people coming in from all over the world, including jails and mental institutes. I don't want that on my record, but I like having it.
Good Lord.
He's delusional. But that is not even the most bananas part of yesterday. Let's go back. I want to go back to Whiskey Pete, who kicked off the entire thing with his stage pacing, aggressive, general's retreat presentation. And he had gems like this one on fatness.
It all starts with physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the joint force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our joint force is required to do PT every duty day. Should be common sense. I mean, most units.
Yeah, he basically said, yeah, people are too fat. They're too fat. We can't have that. They need to do PT. Has he actually seen Donald Trump? Can we put up a picture of Donald Trump? Because he said he can't stand seeing all of these fatties whenever he goes. Like, that's Donald Trump. Of course, he also couldn't leave out the other physical traits that irk him, given that he comes from TV. Enter Beardos. He doesn't like Beardos. He wants no more Beardos.
This also means grooming standards. No more beards, long hair, superficial individual expression. We're going to cut our hair, shave our beards, and adhere to standards. Because it's like the broken windows theory of policing. It's like when you let the small stuff go, the big stuff eventually goes. So you have to address the small stuff. This is on duty, in the field, and in the rear. If you want a beard, you can join Special Forces. If not, then shave. We don't have a military full of Nordic pagans. But unfortunately, we have had leaders who either refuse to call BS and enforce standards, or leaders who felt like they were not allowed to enforce standards. Both are unacceptable. And that's why today, at my direction, the era of unprofessional appearance is over. No more Beardos. The era of rampant and ridiculous shaving profiles is done. Simply put, if you do not meet the male-level physical standards for combat positions, cannot pass a PT test, or don't want to shave and look professional, it's time for a new position or a new profession.
No Beardos, no unprofessional. You don't want anybody unprofessional like somebody who gets blackout drunk at Fox. Like, you don't want that, right? By the way, has he seen J.D. Vance? Jason, do we have a picture of J.D. Vance? Because I kind of feel like J.D. Vance might have a Beardo. I could be wrong, but I just want to confirm it, whether J.D. Vance might indeed, he might be a Beardo. Oh, yep. Sorry, J.D., your military service is over. But wait, there is actually more. Pete also wants the generals and admirals to know that there shall be no more of this woke bullshit about removing toxic leaders from his military.
That's why today, at my direction, we're undertaking a full review of the department's definitions of so-called toxic leadership, bullying, and hazing, to empower leaders to enforce standards without fear of retribution or second guessing. Of course, you can't do like nasty bullying and hazing. We're talking about words like bullying and hazing and toxic. They've been weaponized and bastardized inside our formations, undercutting.
Wonder Dog said the Brill cream is seeping into his brain. Wonder Dog in the chat said the Brill cream is getting him. Yeah. Okay. He's like, toxic leaders, what's wrong with that? Just because you're a little toxic? Nothing wrong with that, baby. We're going to bring hazing back, too. Here he is saying, hazing is back.
We will not lose warfighters because we failed to train or equip them or resource them. Shame on us if we do. Train like your warriors' lives depend on it, because they do. To that point, basic training is being restored to what it should be: scary, tough, and disciplined. We're empowering drill sergeants to instill healthy fear in new recruits, ensuring that future warfighters are forged. Yes, they can shark attack, they can toss bunks, they can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate new recruits, to make them the warriors they need to be.
Yeah, and by the way,
at basic as well.
Okay, bye, Pete. By the way, the reason that they got rid of the hazing allowances inside of the military, even though he seems to be nostalgic for when what was that movie, Jason? When what was the I can't remember the name of the movie. It was a black guy, Major Payne. He wants like that Major Payne era back of the military. He's like clearly nostalgic for it. But I just want to note that he claims that he came up in that era, the non-PC era of the United States military. He did serve in the military. Then how did he turn out like this? How did you turn out like this, man? You got accused by a woman of sexual assault. You made a settlement with this woman. You denied sexually assaulting her, but you paid her out a lot of money. At least your former colleagues at Fox used to get blackout drunk to the point where they were afraid to put you on air. So you had those tough standards, bro. What happened? Why did you turn out this way? Anyway, though, back to his presentation. He said that the new standards of excellence in the Hegethian warrior military, because they're warriors, the standards will be male. Here they are.
That are arriving at your commands as we speak and in your inbox. Today, at my direction, each service will ensure that every requirement for every combat MOS, for every designated combat arms position, returns to the highest male standard only. Because this job is life or death. Standards must be met. And not just met, at every level we should seek to exceed the standard, to push the envelope, to compete. It's common sense and core to who we are and what we do. It should be in our DNA. Today, at my direction, we are also adding a combat field test for combat arms units that must be executable in any environment at any time and with combat equipment. These tests, they'll look familiar. They'll resemble the Army Expert Physical Fitness Assessment or the Marine Corps Combat Fitness Test. I'm also directing that warfighters in combat jobs execute their service fitness test at a gender-neutral, age-normed male standard scored above 70%. It all starts with physical fitness and appearance.
Yeah, and he said if women don't make it, they just don't make it. And I want to also, by the way, go back to the hazing thing. The reason they got rid of the hazing rules, I think I started to say it, is that there was a study that found that extreme hazing actually led to increased incidences of suicide. So, he wants to make suicide in the military great again, apparently. And he wrapped it all up with an inspiring fusillade that left the generals just hooting and hollering with delight. Oh, that's their faces, by the way. They looked like, yeah, bullshit. That was the look on their faces. They were like, yeah, whatever, dude. He just got blank stares throughout much of what he said. But I want to give you his closing argument. This is C9, his close, his big close, big finish.
Move out and draw fire, because we are the War Department. Godspeed.
Room, attention.
And you just saw that this sort of, his face just dropped as no applause. They literally just stared at him. Oh, that's Mark Milley. Oh, we miss Mark Milley. You go ahead and play that, Jason. Oh, no, never mind. We're not going to play it. We'll play it later. Mark Milley, I miss him so much. He actually negatively name-checked Mark Milley. I showed you that screenshot of the audience. Literally, people just looked at him with just blank stares of just like, what the hell? Let's go to C11. Like, we show C11 because this, to me, is the most kind of endemic of really how people feel. We're going to do C11. I just want to show it. Only because it's fun. There it is. G.I. joke. I just wanted to show it. G.I. joke. Because it's absolutely ridiculous. He is a joke. Okay, but then it was on to the main show. Donald Trump himself, who couldn't believe how rowdy the crowd was. How unrowdy, I should say, the crowd was when he took to the stage.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great job you're doing, too. Fantastic job. I've never walked into a room so silent before. This is very... Oh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. You're not allowed to do that. You know what? Just have a good time. And if you want to applaud, you applaud. And if you want to do anything you want, you can do anything you want. And if you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank. There goes your future. But you just feel nice and loose, okay? Because we're all on the same team. And I was told that.
When they're a star, they let you do it. It's giving something, Jason. It's giving something. I just can't put my finger on it. It's giving something.
Standing ovation. Relief. Some even begin to cry. Up on the stage, even Saddam himself sheds a tear.
Because, of course, the men who walked out were executed. That is the world Trump wishes he lived in. He wishes he was that kind of a monarch. He wishes he was Saddam Hussein. Of course, he's not. And the men who sat in that room did not applaud. They were not afraid. They did not give him the fear that I'm sure he wanted. Before he walked in that room, by the way, he told the media with a chuckle that he's going to fire any generals that he didn't like and that he didn't enjoy being in front of on that day. So far, none have been fired, but none clapped, none applauded, none cheered. And I'm sure he was very, very angry. But he remained undeterred. And he continued his speech. I'm going to play you him banging on about his favorite word, tariffs.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's why one of the first executive orders I signed upon taking office was to restore the principle of merit. That's the most important word, other than the word tariff. I love tariffs. Most beautiful word. But I'm not allowed to say that anymore. I said tariff is my favorite word. I love the word tariff. You know, we're becoming rich as hell. We have a big case in front of the Supreme Court, but I can't imagine, because this is what other nations have done to us. And we have, great legal grounds. Oh, but you still have a case. It would be very bad if something happened. But I said, my favorite word in the English dictionary is the word tariff. And people thought that was strange. And the fake news came over and they really hit me hard on it. They said, what about love? What about religion? What about God? What about wife, family? I got killed when I said tariff is my favorite word. So I changed it. It's now my fifth favorite word. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But they hit me hard. But it is. I mean, when you look at, we've taken in trillions of dollars. We're rich again. And there'll never be, when we finish this out, there'll never be any wealth like what we have. Other countries.
Yeah. Then he goes into, and I mean, this is bananas. He goes into what he calls the other N-word.
And it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear. I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N-word. There are two N-words, and you can't use either of them. You can't use either of them. And frankly, if it does get to use, we have more than anybody else. We have better, we have newer, but
Yeah, the other N-word. I mean, that is the level of Donald Trump's mental acuity, that he decided to joke about there being an other N-word. Your president, ladies and gentlemen. He, of course, also couldn't leave out talking about Barack Obama and something he truly fears, which is, of course, stairs.
legacy. We don't want that. You walk nice and easy. You don't have to set any record. Be cool. Be cool when you walk down, but don't pop down the stairs. So one thing with Obama, I had zero respect for him as a president, but he would bop down those stairs. I've never said, da-da-da-da-da-da, pop, pop, pop. He'd go down the stairs, wouldn't hold on. I said, it's great. I don't want to do it. I guess I could do it. But eventually, bad things are going to happen, and it only takes once. But he did a lousy job as president.
Okay. This is in front of military generals. I just want to remind you. Of course, there was also that election denial. He talked about creating like a Department of Peace that he's going to be the chairman of to create peace in the Middle East. All of that bizarre stuff. He also tried to get a shout out into the room. He tried to get the people in front of him to cheer. So he tried saying, "Hey, cheer for this general called Raising Cane."
Fantastic, by the way. I hope you all agree. If anybody disagrees, could I please have your hand? Who disappears at Raising Cane is no good? Just raise your hand. I don't see any hands raised. All right. That means you're okay. That means that he's okay now, but I saw his results. You know, he took out.
That means you're okay. Just go ahead and say Raising Cane, everybody. Oh, you're not saying it. Okay. All righty, let me keep it moving. Then he gets to the part where your drunk uncle at the family reunion decided that, you know what? He's for war because he's against war. Here's Donald Trump on war.
When we go with the word war, and we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there, and sometimes you have to do it.
But not against a foreign country. Oh, no. He wants to wage war against Americans, and he's quite proud of it.
Only in recent decades did politicians somehow come to believe that our job is to police the far reaches of Kenya and Somalia, while America is under invasion from within. We're under invasion from within. No different than a foreign enemy, but more difficult in many ways because they don't wear uniforms. At least when they're wearing a uniform, you can take them out. These people don't have uniforms. But we are under invasion from within. We're stopping it very quickly. What they've done to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, they're very unsafe places, and we're going to straighten them out one by one. And this is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within. Controlling the physical territory of our border is essential to national security. We can't let these people in. Last month, I signed an executive order to provide training for quick reaction force that can help quell civil disturbances. And this is going to be a big thing for the people in this room because it's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control. It won't get out of control. Once you're involved at all, they all joke. They say, oh, this is not good. Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders, and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up in one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals
Have you had enough?
shooting at them.
I think I've had enough. I think you can stop there. I just have to say this before we bring in our guest. I really do feel like what we are witnessing now is somebody who is deeply, deeply in the throes of ongoing dementia. Clearly, Donald Trump's cabinet is just feeding a senior citizen just insane delusions that he is saving the cities, that he's doing this incredible job, that tariffs are working, that the economy is the hottest economy in the world, while they are grifting, while RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz stand to profit from people replacing their Tylenol with supplements that they happen to invest in, the crypto and AI and oil and gas barons. They all get what they want. They're just dragging our climate to hell, dragging our earth to hell, getting dirty fossil fuel policies just greenlit. The crypto Nazis are feeding him with this sort of neo-fascist insanity against immigrants, and they get him to perform like they're like marionette puppet, all while he is clearly diminishing, while his family members are scooping up, the spoils from the Saudis and the crypto barons. It's literally a giant grift that's being conducted with a diminished, clearly a president who's clearly not all there. Joining me now is Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. And Senator, thank you so much for being here. I have to tell you, I watched that entire thing from start to finish with Hegseth and Trump. The Hegseth one was dumb. The Trump one was actually disturbing. As a United States Senator, is there a conversation going on at any level about Donald Trump's mental acuity? He seems to me to be a man who is suffering some sort of early onset dementia, or something's wrong.
Look, Joy, the Republicans in the Senate just are whatever Donald Trump wants is what they want. They are just spineless, and they don't want to do anything other than what Donald Trump wants them to do.
But behind the scenes, do they know that there's something wrong with him?
Behind
What we saw,
the scenes, they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it.
At least when there are Democrats around.
Right.
Yeah.
When there are Democrats around. I was generally concerned. I mean, this man is in front of the United States military's highest officials and was banging on about needing a Nobel Prize and about tariffs and the other N word and just saying the most bizarre thing. And then he said he's going to invade American cities. And I don't even know what he thought they were going to say or do.
Yeah. Though, this is the part that every time you try to get a hold of a piece of what's happening, the difficulty is that someone else comes in and talks to Donald Trump, and it all spins around again. I keep thinking back to a year ago right now, Joy. A year ago right now, Donald Trump was out on the campaign saying over and over and over he would lower costs for American families on day one. On day one was
That's
one of his signature statements.
Specifically groceries.
Oh, yes. And after he gets elected, he gets interviewed. And that first interview, they ask him, why do you think you got elected? And he said, because I promised to lower costs for families on day one. So here we are. We are at day 250. Cost of groceries is up. Cost of utilities is up. Cost of housing is up. Cost of school shoes and backpacks and baby strollers is up. And by the way, a big part of why those costs are up are because of tariffs.
Yes.
Donald Trump's whole tariff policy. Remember those tariffs
Mhm.
that are 10%, 15%, 55%, 100%? The tariffs are pushing those prices up. And then there's the one legislative piece the Republicans have done, and that's healthcare. And the Republicans, led by Donald Trump, are pushing the cost of healthcare through the roof. They are knocking 15 million people off healthcare and raising premiums for pretty much everybody else in the country. So that means a cost that was already out of control for a lot of folks, a system that was already broken. What Trump and the Republicans are doing is they're saying, hey, we're going to make it worse. We're going to take seniors in nursing homes, push them out in the street. Alzheimer's care, push them out in the street. We're going to take brand new babies and their mamas and say, sorry, no health care for you. We're going to take your neighbors, your friends, the ones who have to use a wheelchair or who need a home health aid to be able to live independently. We're going to say to those folks, sorry, not anymore, not anymore. And for just families at home who have a budget, who are already stretched to the edge, all those families who are borrowing a little at the end of the month, who can't seem to find the money to save, they're talking about right now, people are getting the notices that their health insurance premiums are doubling in many cases. And that means for some families, they look at it and say, so what are we going to do? We're going to give
Yeah.
up eating? Or are we going to give up having health care? So these are people who are determined to push those prices up because they don't care. They
Yeah.
don't care. They're
But-
off looking at, hey, we're doing tax breaks for billionaires. We're
That's right.
helping out the big tech companies. We're helping out the United Arab Emirates. Oh, and sending $20 billion down to Argentina
Yeah.
after the Argentinian farmers just cut a deal with China that takes away from American soybean farmers and says, you guys can just suck air, that market is now going to the Argentinians. And Donald Trump, because he wants to prop up the unpopular leader in charge, Donald Trump is sending them $20 billion of your hard-earned money.
Well, to say nothing, Senator, of they're also apparently pledging eternal support, military support for Qatar. I didn't know that we were going to have our troops put their lives on the line for Qatar. But I want to go back to, you're making an excellent point, that the whole thing that the Democrats and Republicans are fighting about with regarding the Republicans shutting the government down is because Democrats said, no, you have to keep the premium supports for people on Obamacare. You have to keep those. You can't get rid of them. It's going to make it too expensive for people that have Obamacare. Republicans don't want to do that. But instead of being honest about not wanting to do it and saying we really would rather give the money to billionaires, they're on the HUD website, Senator, on the homepage of the Housing and Urban Development Department website, lying and claiming that Democrats want to give health care to undocumented people, as if letting people get health care is some sort of evil. But they're using racism against undocumented brown people, let's just be blunt, to try to trick Americans into being in favor of this.
And
isn't that a hashtag violation?
Yeah. Yes. And understand this, though. Understand the only thing that Republicans are saying now about health care is Democrats want to give it to undocumented immigrants, which is a lie. The law is perfectly clear. No undocumented immigrants get any access to Medicaid. They get no access to ACA supplements, none, zero, zip. But think about the fact that that's all they can say about healthcare. Do they deny that they're going to knock 15 million people off health?
Right.
Nope. Do they deny that people who are going to see their healthcare premiums go up by double or even more? Nope. Do they deny that rural hospitals are going to be closed, that community health centers are going to close? No and no. The only response they've got about healthcare is to lie. They got nothing else. And for me, that's why this is such an important fight. This is Democrats standing up on behalf of the American people and saying, we understand that you're having trouble making ends meet. And the one thing we are willing to go to the mat right now and fight for is to keep your health care costs from going through the roof. We're not asking for additional health care plans at this moment. We're not asking for more money for health care. We're just asking for the Republicans to put back in place the health care that people were still entitled to in June. And
Right.
that in July, the Republicans passed a law to take away.
And let me ask you this, because I think this is the concern a lot of Democrats have. They know you'll fight. They have no doubt that Elizabeth Warren is going to go to the mat.
So.
On the House side, they know Pramila Jayapal and the Progressive Caucus are going to fight. They know the Congressional Black Caucus will be with them. There are some doubts about the leadership in the Senate, if we're being blunt. Because Chuck Schumer did cut a deal before to reopen the government because there was, I guess, a genuine desire not to have the pain of a government shutdown really kick in. But this time, are Democrats on the Senate side going to hold firm? No health care, no vote.
So look, we understand this fight all the way. I can only speak for myself because that's the way the world works. But we have sharpened this fight down basically to a single ask, and that is roll back those health care cuts and follow the law. That's what we're asking for. Those are the two things, I guess you could say, that are on the table. We are agreed that this needs to be done and that we will stay in this fight. And Donald Trump is in the middle of hostage taking. I've never seen anything like it. An American president who actually says if the Democrats don't cave in and give Donald Trump what he wants, which is a blank check to make as many cuts as he wants, wherever he wants, if the Democrats won't cave in and do that, Donald Trump says, I'm going to impose a lot of pain. I'm going to cause a lot of people to hurt. He says he's going to fire a bunch more federal workers. Because it's good for the country? No, but because it will hurt people. He said today he's going to take away infrastructure money for bridges and roads for people in New York. American citizens who need those bridges, who need those roads. He says, I'm going to show you I will hurt millions of Americans if the Democrats don't give in. To me, that's the moment when you draw the line and you stand and you fight.
Amen. Amen. It is not Sunday, but you can get a hallelujah as if we are in church on a Sunday. Senator Elizabeth Warren, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Stay in the fight and come back anytime.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank y'all for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe. Share this channel. Make sure that everybody subscribes to the YouTube channel. 70% of people are lurking, watching these shows and not subscribing. Why would you do that? So make sure that you like, subscribe, and throw some comments in. Thank you all for joining the Joy Reid Show. See you on the next one. And goodbye for now.